Hi there, this is Tim Schrock from Design Build Solutions bringing you today's Tech Tip Tuesday. This is part 2 of the Chief Architect templates tips. I'm working in Chief Architect Premiere version X9 on my iMac. Right now what you're seeing is I've sped up 15 minutes of screen recording creating my dimension defaults that we talked about last time. All the tips and tricks here, but moving on. So I wanted to show you guys something a little unique about the dimension defaults that I do, particularly because I'm so heavily involved in remodeling. You've seen me speed through all of the dimension defaults that I've got here. I've got my scale defaults that I'm mainly really going to just use those in elevation views or section views or CAD drawing views, detail type of things. Then I've got my plan views for my architecturals, electrical foundation, framing, HVAC, plot plan, plumbing, roof, and wind bracing, etc. But as I mentioned earlier, there's one set that I do create here that I call my existing conditions defaults. And that one is unique because field measurements so often come in many different, in a couple different formats. So I'm going to copy my 1/4 inch scale dimension defaults because that's the size and such that I want that to be. I'm going to click OK. My primary format, I want my trailing zeros. I want my smallest fraction at 1/16. I want to show the denominator. All this is correct. I want to show a secondary format. So when I draw this dimension, I'm going to see this dimension given me in two ways. Primarily, on the top of the line is going to be feet and inches. On the bottom of the line will be given just inches. And the reason for that is that I'm going to uncheck leading zeros. The reason for that is because the field measurements come to me, a big room measurement might be given to me as 17 foot 3 1/4, but then detailed measurements might be given to me, 53 inches from corner to window. And I want to be able to see that quickly without having to mentally do the math. I'm going to click on smallest fraction as a 1/16 again. This is also unique and different in that typically field measurements are measured surface to surface. Because typically there's already, plaster or drywall or paneling, some sort of surface built onto the existing conditions. I am going to choose both sides because most often you're measuring internally, wall to wall. You might have a overall dimension, through 2 or 3 rooms of 53 feet or whatever it is, but that's the way I want it to be. I don't need to locate fixtures and appliances. In my door openings, I want it measured to the sides, not to the casings. And the reason I don't want field measurements measured to casings, centers is okay. It's really hard to be perfect in a field measurement on that. Casings, they tend to measure wall to casing, and that's great. But they don't tell me the reveal of the casing. They don't tell me how wide the casing is, etc. I forgot to keep going. Layer. I'm going to dimension existing layer. my arrows set up correctly, and my text style is going to be text style will be 1/4 inch. That is this unique dimension default that we will have called existing conditions dimension defaults. So now that I've got all of this set up, I've got text, I've got rich text, arrows, dimensions, you name it. The next thing on my list is layer sets. Now, layer sets, I've heard, are difficult to understand, particularly when it comes to annotations. And we'll get to annotations next. But layer sets, I look at it this way. If I have, say, an architectural plan and an electrical plan and a plumbing plan, I want certain features that are in the model to be on for architectural and off for electrical. I want other features to be on for electrical and off for architectural. And the same goes for plumbing and framing and, you know, all of that stuff. So I set up my my list here. We've got, here's the plan sets I use. CD plan, CD is for construction docs, that's just how I use it. CD plan 2 is usually my 1/2 inch scale plans. I use that for kitchens and baths blow up. And on that I give, you know, cabinet dimensions, I give elevation marks, you know, pointing them to the right elevation, wall elevation type of thing. CD plan 3, every so often I have another, you know, detail that I want to show in the layer sets, in the layers, in the layout. There we go, in the final plans. Electrical plan, of course. Framing plan. Now, framing is a default from Chief that I keep on hanging on to. Do we absolutely need it? Not necessarily, but it's nice to have extras every so often. Now, framing ceiling and framing floor sometimes can be used the same, can be synonymous. Let's say you've got a 1.5-story house and you want to show the floor framing for the second floor and on one layout and the ceiling framing on another. That's why I split it up. Then there's framing roof. So you might have, if you've got a 1-story building, you might have a ceiling framing plan and you might have a roof framing plan, and you don't really want to show the two objects on the two plans there, right? Because you've got text for each, you've got dimensions for each. Just makes things clear. HVAC plans, NKBA plans. This is another Chief Architect default that I just leave in there. Plot plan, plumbing plan, roof plan. Now I do roof plans differently than roof framing plans. I give basic dimensions. I show what's overlay, what's not. You know, it just I separate the two out. Foundation plan. Now I think I mentioned this last time. I use the foundation plan separately from a level 0 architectural plan, because sometimes I want to show you know, the architectural set being the living space, but I need to show the foundation plan to be clear, you know, with the slab, with the footings, with step footings, with the foundation. Sometimes, you know, you might have a slab on grade, like a walkout basement type of thing, and so I need to show the foundation that comes up to the slab, but then in my CD plan on level 0, I would show the wood framing up layer. So, I've been using it from time to time, and instead of creating this layer set whenever I need it, I'm putting it in my default template so that it's ready to go when I need it. And then, of course, wind bracing. A lot of jurisdictions are specifically requiring wind bracing calculations, and so the engineer gives me a plan, and I put that information in the final set as well. So now going back to Chief Architect, we have several different layer sets. Now I'm going to actually we're going to have layer sets that have nothing to do with the plans. Things like section view, things like the print model set, reference display set, wall detail set isn't necessarily part of plan unless you send a wall detail set to the plan. Grading plan set, I don't use that as, you could use that, I suppose, in your final set. Camera view sets for sure are not part of what goes into the final sets. All on, all off. I like using this because sometimes I know there's an object somewhere and I just want to turn them all on. So quickly I can click on that. All off, I use that. I go to this all off set and then I turn on one layer so I can isolate that one layer. Aerial view and 3D framing view are also examples of layer sets that turning certain parts of the model on and off in the view we're looking at. I'm going to click on the check mark here. That's my display options. You can actually get to the same dialog box using your keyboard shortcut, the apostrophe. I take that back. The reverse apostrophe, which is right next to the left of the number 1 key on your keyboard. And here's our default set. And if I click on this box, I've got my same selection here. I'm going to copy this default set, and I'm going to call it CD Plan Set. Now, I'm going to go through this pretty carefully with a fine-tooth comb, each layer by layer, and set it up the way I want it here. I want architectural blocks off, audio and video I want off. Remember, this is my main architectural set. Auto dormers can be off, cabinet base I want on, full I want on, shelves and partition on, soffits on, wall cabinets on, countertops on, custom backsplash can be on, doors and drawers can be on, labels I want off for now, module lines I want off, CAD default off, CD plan I want on, CD plan 2 I want off, plan 3 I want off, CAD electrical off, existing plan. Actually, I want that on because I use that in remodeling to show where the walls used to be. Flashing lines can certainly be on. Foundation is going to be off. Framing will be off. Grade line. Grade line can remain on. I never use grade line in anything except for sections, so it could be on or off. It won't change anything. Hidden line I'll leave on. HVAC off. Cameras I want off. Work limit line I want on in the architectural plan set. Plumbing plot plan post down I want on. Continuing on, we'll turn off camera labels. Casings, interior and exterior can be on. Ceiling break lines on. Ceiling planes off. Corner boards will remain on. Cross-section lines will on. Dimensions automatic and manual will be off. Dimension CD plan will remain on, but CD plan 2 and 3 are off. Electrical's off, existing's off, foundation's off. Doors will be on in this view. Headers off, door labels I want on in this case. Electrical I want off. Electrical 2, electrical connections are off. Electrical labels are off. Fences I want off in this plan. Rarely do I want to see fences in my architectural plan. I use fences just for context of the exterior model. Exterior fixtures I typically have off. Although fixtures I should leave on. Some of these layers are unique because like I want to see the hose bib on the exterior fixtures, but when you put a car in the driveway, it goes onto the exterior fixtures too. But so I don't want to put a car in. I don't want to see a car in the driveway, but I'm going to leave this on just for purposes of things like the hose bib. Interior fixtures are things like sinks, so I want those on. Interior closed and open, that's for things like the barn doors and the nano wall doors that I've done in the previous videos. I want the closed one on, open one off. Footings can be on. Now Chief Architect puts your line weights and default line styles very well. So typically I don't mess with these all that much. Post footings I want on. Step markers I want on. Framing, all the framing I want off. Labels, framing posts, for now I just want off. Interior and exterior furniture I want off. I don't want that in the architectural set. Geometric shapes I usually want off. Hardware can be on. HVAC off. Images off. Light sources off. Material regions off. Millwork will remain on. Moldings will remain on for now. Patterns, 3D views, we'll turn that off. Plants off. Plumbing off. Polylines, I'm going to turn off for now. Roads I do not want in the architectural set. So curbs, markings, sidewalks, roof planes off. All that does not need to be on in architectural set. Roof openings off. Roof valleys off. Room labels on. Rooms off. If you use the room wizard in Chief, that's what the layer goes onto there. Interior dimensions, that's fine. Standard area off. Schedules on. Slabs on. Space planning boxes. I thought that was room. I'm confused. Sprinklers we'll leave off. Spray lines off. Stairs and ramps we want on. I like the details being on. That shows the dashed line of the riser versus the solid line of the tread. The up arrow will be on. Sun shadows will be off. Terrain will all be off. Text layer is off. Callouts and markers and CD plan will be on. And in CD plan, here's where I do change some things. For text callouts and markers, I want this CD plan is generally going to be my 1/4 inch scale. So I'm going to select my 1/4 inch text style for both of these layers. Text CD plan will be 1/4 inch scale. CD plan 2, while off, is the 1/2 inch text style, and plan 3 is the 1 inch text style. Just like you can have different abilities to turn on and off layers in each layer set, you can make them different colors, different line weights, line styles, and text styles. So scrolling down, I'm still in my architectural plan. Walk-through paths I want off, while niches we'll leave on, labels we'll leave on. I do not want to see attic walls in my architectural set. Foundations I want on, invisible walls off. Hatching we'll leave on in CD plan set. Wall labels will be off. Wall layers I do want on in the architectural plan. Through wall lines will be off. Windows and window labels will be on. And that's my CD plan set. Now I'm going to click on the icon here and I'm going to switch to CD plan set here. Now, just because I switched to it in this box, if I click OK, this one remains default set. The issue is this is the active layer set right now, default set. When I go into this dialog box, layer display options, I'm not selecting the active viewed one. I'm just selecting the one that I'm going to change right now. We might do this. I do this often, for instance, with the reference display set. I don't want to see a layer on when I turn my reference display on, or I need to see another layer on. So I go into here and then I change it. Now this is a perfect example of colors, status, lock. The lock is on for most of these, right? Most of these have the red color. You could change all of them to a green color if you wanted. You could change all of them to yellow if you wanted that. Let's say you had a black background. You're working with black on your desktop and you wanted to see the reference display when you hit F9 on your keyboard. You wanted to see that in yellow. You could change all that. I'm going to go back to my CD plan set and copy this set because it's very similar to the main architectural set that I want to see with a few minor tweaks. So I'm going to click OK as the name, CD plan set 2. I'm going to scroll up to cabinets because I use this for my kitchens and baths, right? So I might turn on my cabinet labels in this layer. I'm going to turn off my CAD CD plan layer and turn on CD plan 2. I'm going to hit D on my keyboard, will jump me down to the first layer with a D in its name, and we'll turn off CD plan, turn on CD plan 2. T on my keyboard jumps me down to terrain, but that's close to text, and I'm going to turn off text CD plan and turn on CD plan 2. Now, here's something unique. If I have my CD plan 2 layer set on and my text callouts and markers have the 1/4 inch text style, my CD plan 2 text will be half the size of the callouts and markers. So I'm going to select both of these by shift clicking and change this text style to 1/2 inch because my CD plan 2 will typically be 1/2 inch size. Now, because I don't have this checkbox selected, modify all layer sets, I can just modify the CD plan set 2 and change the text style of this. I'm going to do the same for my window labels. I'm going to change that to my default label style 1/2. And scroll up to D for doors and do the same for my door labels. And that way everything is proportionately moving to the 1/2 inch scale that I want it to be. Everything else in this CD plan set 2 is great. I'm going to click OK to save that, and I'm just going to save this file quickly. Back into my layer display options, I'm going to switch to CD plan set 2 and copy this to name it CD plan set 3. I'm going to hit CAD. I'm quickly typing CAD with my left hand, and I turn off CAD plan 2, turn on CD plan 3. I'm going to turn off labels. For this one, I don't need to see labels on this 1-inch scale. I might turn off existing plan. I don't necessarily need to see where the walls used to be in the remodeling project. I'm going to go to D for dimensions, turn off CD Plan 2, turn on CD Plan 3, text, T on my keyboard, CD Plan 2, CD Plan 3. Now I'm going to go back to D for doors, and I'm just going to turn off the door labels, and W for windows, turn off the window labels, and save. So now I'm starting to build this set. You can keep going with your framing ceiling set, framing floor set, framing roof set, etc. Annotations now. Annotations, Chief comes with these. If I were to click on electrical annotations, that's going to automatically change the layer set that we're viewing. Right below my cursor here, you'll see the CAD layer. If I were to draw a CAD object, would go on the CAD electrical plan. If I were to type, let's double click on my text here, and see what the defaults are here, and go into appearance. If I were to type text, it would go on my text electrical plan. So the layer sets controls what we see. Annotations can control what we see. It can also, the power of it also controls, now that we're seeing the electrical set, I want to put information on the electrical layers. The CAD layer, the text layer, and the dimension layer. In particularly, for me, that's the biggest three. So I'm going to create, this little icon right next to the annotation set is my annotations management here. I'm going to click on 1/4 inch scale. You'll see the name of the annotation set here. The current CAD layer would go to CAD default, and all the dimensions, rich text, etc. here. Okay, so this is the CAD layer that if you just switch to 1/4 inch scale, it would start drawing CAD items on this layer. It would start drawing dimensions on this layer, rich text, callouts, markers. Would use these default settings that we've just created for all this stuff, right? Layer set, you don't have to select the layer set. You can just use whatever's active at the time. If I switch to 1/2 inch scale, you'll see all these change to a different scale. If I change to electrical though, look, CAD electrical is the layer we draw CAD objects on. Dimensions would go to this default. Rich text would be the electrical text default. And when we switch to electrical annotations, it's going to switch us to a different view called electrical set. I'm going to go back to 1/4 inch scale, and I'm going to copy this set. I want to call this, remove copy, and I'm going to call this CD plan. Current CAD layer, when I go into CD plan annotations, I want it to draw on the CAD CD plan layer. Dimensions, I want to choose the CD plan dimensions. Rich text, CD plans. And the reason for that, again, remember, because in these dimension defaults and text defaults, we specified which layer we want that text to go onto. If I left it at 1/4 inch, text, the generic text or generic dimensions manual layers would be the layers it goes on. Well, I don't want that one. I want it on my CD plan layers. Callouts and markers are different because I do oftentimes want to see those across different layer sets. 1/4 inch scale arrows is fine because arrow defaults don't specify what layers they're going on. And the layer set, last but not least, I want to specify this CD plan set. I'm going to draw something really quickly here, just to show you what's happening. We're in the electrical set layout, and if I switch to electrical annotations and draw a dimension, and let's draw some text. Electrical, whoops, I can't type. Text, test. There we go. Now I'm going to switch to my CD plan, my architectural set, and look, now I'm seeing layers in the walls. I'm not seeing the dimensions that I just drew, and I'm not seeing the text. So let's draw dimensions here. Now remember, these dimensions may be located at different areas of the different layers of the wall. I don't think they are in this case. So this is architecture CD plan text. So I want to see this information on the architectural plan. I might have some cabinetry. Looks great. I switch to electrical. I could switch to the electrical this way, and then I'd see the right stuff. Interestingly, I don't have my layer set, electrical layer set fully tweaked yet. But notice right beneath my cursor here, I'm on the same CAD layer, CAD CD plan, because I didn't change my annotations, I changed my layer sets. So I was in CAD CD plan that says put all the text on the CD plan text layer, put all the dimensions on the CD plan layer, put all the CAD objects on the CD plan CAD layer. If I just switch my display set, I'm going to keep my CAD text and dimension layer defaults, and notice this says using active defaults. So most of the time I switch between views with the annotations in this way. All right. I hope that helps. I know this has been a long and probably very boring video, but once you get this all set up, it works really well. I am offering the my template here for sale. I will leave the information in the comments of how to get this if you want to download this. Next week, I hadn't thought this would go into 3 videos, but next week we'll go into the wall types and how I set that up for the way I like it. And I'll go into some detail about the template options that you have. All right, this is Tim Schrock with Tech Tip Tuesday from Design Build Solutions. Thanks for watching. Have a great week.